bit the... Sorry. Ayan. Hello, good evening to everyone that's watching this evening. Pasensya na kung medyo na tagalan tayo ng konti sa ating live stream today because I'm having a little bit of technical issues a little bit earlier on going live. Okay? So, pagpasensyahan nyo na lang for a bit because I was having a little bit of issues on that end. And I'm still trying to making sure that hindi tayo magkaroon ng issues sa ano natin dito sa live stream natin because I am still having some bit of a trouble pagdating sa connection. So, hello everyone. Okay. I know medyo this is not our usual na live stream na episode. This is not usually yung oras natin sa live stream, and we usually have it on Saturdays. However, I had some personal things that needed to be addressed and done first last Saturday that had to take place first. So, na-move yung ating live stream to now. So, I am hoping that pagpasensyahan nyo yung ating yung ating delay sa live stream natin ngayon. So, what we're going to do for this live stream is that we're going to be talking about the guys, the gentlemen who were standouts in terms of their overall performances in the preliminary competition of the Mr. International Philippines preliminaries that happened a couple of days ago. I think at the Tuegegarao Coliseum in Tuegegarao City in Cagayan. Doon sa preliminary competition, there are actually a lot of guys who I felt did strong. Collectively as a batch, I believe yung batch natin this year is a little bit more diverse and a little bit, I believe, stronger in terms of yung kanilang overall na looks, overall na height. I believe this is one of the taller na mga batches this year because a lot of the guys that I actually listed in my top 10 among the standouts were actually, around 5'10", 5'11", and higher. So, we know naman that in male pageants, height is might, and it's very rare to have seen mga winners, mga international winners that are of in the shorter stature. So, I am quite happy to see that when I was listing down all the guys that I believe have potential to win one of the 7 plus one more titles ng Mr. International this year. Medyo on the taller side yung mga guys that I was able to list down among my standouts. So I do hope na itong mga guys na to are some of the guys that are also in your radar because these guys, I believe, are some of the more physically equipped. Sila yung mga not only gifted ng height but also gifted ng in terms of their physique, and at the same time they interview well because I believe there are a number of the guys in my top 10 who were mentioned at the recent posts on the best interviews, 20 guys who had the best interviews in the batch. So, ayan. For posterity's sake, I'm only discussing 10. However, I have several on my list na mga guys that are within the same range of possibilities. I am not sure what the format that they're going to have for this year, but if they have like 8 titles up for grabs, then I would assume that a top 16 or a top 20 is highly possible in a field of 54 candidates this year. Ayan. Okay, so welcome dun sa mga nandito na nanonood ng ating ng ating live stream ngayon. I hope you drop by a comment, say hi, and let's begin first with some of the guys na tao nito, hi Mark Gonzalez, hello, good evening. Let's go check muna some of the guys that I think have potential. Pero wala sila dito sa listahan ko ng 10 because there is actually for this batch very strong yung what do you call this? Very strong yung collectively yung batch that it's quite difficult to pinpoint which of the guys are actually going to make top 10. I believe that yung criteria that I selected is to find guys, list the guys that are commercially and commercially one, two, unconventionally, and three, conventionally handsome. Ito yung batch na any of those 3 categories, you can fill in with candidates na pwede mong isalpak. Whether they are commercial, whether they are unconventionally handsome, or they are what we deem as a society na may itsura, whether or not sila pasok doon sa moreno, mestizo, and chinito na looks. Now, the thing is, with this year's batch, I think mas may diversity tayo in terms of looks, but that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean na wala tayong mapili on each of those different na looks that tawag ito na they present. So I think sige, unahin muna natin dun sa mga guys na almost within our almost within the top 10, pero they were at the outskirts nung listahan natin. And I want to start off the list with Talisay, Batangas. His name is Ryan Christopher Sacopon. I think siya yung among the candidates this year, siya yung may pinaka resemblance to the prototype na Superman na look. If you look at his social, meron siyang post doon that really has this Clark Kent look in his shot. And I kind of agree na yun yung best look niya. He has this very I would say it's not Dean Cain, or it's not even it's more of a Brandon Routh na look, na similarity with this Superman actor when it comes to his facial features. And I think he is milking yung similarity na yon. I think he could be one of the possible spoilers this year. I think na meron siyang potential to actually win yung one of the titles as well. Another guy that is on my radar is Emmanuel Balba, who is Mr. International Philippines representing Tanawan City in Batangas. This guy has this very chinito na look with him. I love yung pag nag-i-smile siya kasi there is such a boyish good looks with this guy that is also but he also channels a little bit of the sensuality na it's so hard to find with a guy who has a very friendly na face. And maganda din yung katawan niya. He has a very muscular, well built na katawan. However, I just need for him to be a little bit more, how to say this, a little bit more on point when it comes to his hairstyling and din sa kanyang overall na style, because sometimes I find him, a little bit hit or miss on. Oh, shush. Sorry for that. I think let me just put in my may wifi as possible na ano. Kasi kung minsan mobile data, ginagamit ko kasi mobile data para hindi tayo ma-interrupt, and if nagkakaroon ng issues sa mobile data, kinakailangan i-on ko din yung wifi just to make sure that it's safe. Okay, another guy on my list of possible na tawag ito na okay, wait, it's way down the line, sorry about that, at ano natin siya. Scroll. Oh my God. Okay, his name is he's from Misamis Oriental. His name is Arjun Albutra. He's a 23-year-old na basketball player, and I think he's currently working at the local government unit in his place. He is 6 feet tall, and yung unang napansin ko sa kanya is he has this Tom Holland thing going on with yung kanyang lower part of ng kanyang face that I feel na medyo boyish at the same time. But if you look at his body, yung kanyang proportions, ang haba at ang tangkad niyang tignan, and that's not very surprising because he is actually 6 feet tall. And if I'm not mistaken, he was one of the 20 guys who was mentioned as the contenders for the parang fashion modeling na challenge. So in terms of yung kanyang overall na proportions, I think he's one of the guys na if I was a designer, I would definitely get him as one of my models, because his proportions is very much of that of a workhorse. I mean of a clothes horse. Maganda yung proportions ng kanyang katawan, mahaba siyang tignan, and I think that's the appeal, kasi yung kanyang physique is something that is more geared towards modeling. And then I also have Aris Ronnie Patis from Zamboanga del Sur. He is, I believe, at around 5'10" in height, or 5'11", if I'm not mistaken, somewhere within that vicinity. He is one of those very much interesting yung kanyang look. The thing that I appreciate with his look is that he has a very versatile face na kapag pumayat yung mukha niya, he looks, very model-esque. Kapag nag-shave siya ng head, tapos medyo mas bulky yung katawan niya, he could look like he could join yung mga bikini contests na tawag nito na mga competition. And I think yung versatility niya na yon, that he could make it look very sexy, very sensual yung kanyang appeal, versus yung kanyang very model-esque na appeal kapag nagpapayat siya, nag-trim down siya, nag-cut down siya ng kanyang weight. I think he is one of those guys na with the right styling can really do well in the competition. And looking dun sa kanyang perform on the formal wear. And I also have okay, sorry about that. Let me just scroll down again my the very boyish looking na tama, it's the gig. His name is Leonard Cardozo. He's 5'11" tall. Okay. There. We're back. Sorry, medyo hindi maganda yung live stream, yung internet connection natin, kaya pangalawang beses. It's okay, Haji F. It's okay just to be audience this time. But we're talking about the male pageants, and we're talking about the mga standouts doon sa preliminary competition. Now, one of the things that got me Cardozo among the candidates is there's 54 of them. There's actually originally like 56, pero one backed out and one was not able to continue his candidacy. So, naging 54 na lang sila. So, anyway, what I remember about the preliminaries with Leonard Cardozo is yung kanyang formal wear na attire na kapag tumalikod siya, backless yung kanyang suit. I think that was a very bold fashion statement to make. And I think with the height and with that boyish look, siguro konting maturity pa doon sa kanyang doon sa kanyang look, because he still looks very much boyish despite being like 25 no, it's not 25, it's 24 years old. He is 24 years old pero very very boyish pa yung look niya. So maybe a little bit more definition dun sa kanyang katawan would do him good. And then I also have Miko Bonyon from Albay. The problem with Miko because of his lettering dun sa Albay na lettering is because siya yung unang-unang lumalabas whenever it comes to the competition. So mapa swimsuit, mapa national costume, mapa nag-uumpisa yung kanyang province. That is a problem because he might be underscored technically dahil siya yung unang lalabas. He kinds of becomes the parang measurement where they would not score too high or too low doon sa unang lalabas among the 54 candidates, because most judges would probably reserve their higher scores towards the candidates towards the middle. That is the reason why na Miko being the first candidate to go out might be a disadvantage for him. I think that Miko would be a good top 20, top 16 na semi-finalists if he was able to score high enough. I think he is one of those guys na very charismatic ang labas niya on her photos. So I think if hindi siya on the disadvantaged side because of him being the first guy to come out, I am hoping na he makes top 6 or even top 16 or top 20. I'm hoping that for a large group na top 20 ang hanapin nila for this year's competition. And then I also have Wenzel Mark Acosta from Rizal Province. He is actually one of those guys na he has a boyish na look, but with the proper styling perhaps, mapapa-mature mo pa yung mukha niya so that it goes much well doon sa kanyang katawan, kasi he is one of those guys na ang ganda ng kanyang physique. And honestly, this year's batch, when it comes to their bodies, in their physicality, mas madali silang appreciate dahil mas mukhang prepared and handa sila doon sa kanilang what do you call this, doon sa kanilang as compared to the other years. Mas maganda yung mga katawan collectively ng mga candidates ng Mr. International Philippines this year as compared to yung previous na mga batches. However, that does not mean that they are of a better batch, because a lot of these guys needs a little bit more push on social media dahil they're not as popular as the guys from last year. Dun nagkakaroon ng imbalance between this year's batch and last year's batch. I think physically, in terms of the body and the height, this year's batch has a larger populace of taller guys. But in terms of charisma, I believe, and in terms of facial features, mas maraming guwapo last year. This is why for this year, it's easy for me to pick some of the guys who are facially, superior in terms of the 54 na candidates. Now, I also have, sorry, one last guy to mention. I also have, what's his name again? Sorry about that. Oh, there. Um, si Manila. His name is Justoni Matic. I think he is one of the guys na ang pinaka prepared physically, pinakamaganda yung katawan. I think he is one of those guys that has a very interesting na physique. He stands around 5'10", 5'11" in height. So, I think, in terms of height talaga, mas blessed yung batch na ito. Okay, so, wait. May comment si Mark Gonzalez. Sabi niya, optimal use of the stage and use of the logo. Positives for the preliminaries, I believe, ng Mr. International. He mentioned here, optimal use of the stage and the use of the logo. Interesting colors for the formal wear. There's may nagsuot ng chartreuse, may nagsuot ng pink, ng periwinkle, etc. As well as the textures and fabric that's used and ample time for each candidate on stage. Actually, yes. I actually like yung M na stage nila for the Mr. International na preliminaries. Although, medyo I didn't appreciate yung sabayan silang lumabas. I would have appreciate na may isang paisa-isa sila on the different wings of the M stage. Sana para mas hindi ganun ka-jerky yung movement ng camera during the preliminaries. Okay. HGF is here, Mark Gonzalez is here. For those guys na ngayon lang nag-log in, please leave a like or a thumbs up and dun sa ating live stream ngayon para mas marami yung makakita ng ating live stream so that the algorithm would play its part and show our live stream episode tonight to more people. Ayan. So, as I said earlier, we're not at the same, what do you call this? We're not enjoying the, mind fog. As I mentioned earlier, this is a very different na live stream ngayon because we are not on our usual schedule. I understand that. I just had to have a personal break yesterday because I have to prioritize something that's personal. Kaya minove ko yung ating live stream ngayon. And I want this live stream to be quick and to be fast because there is so much what do you call this? There's so much to talk about in terms of the guys who made our top 10 na list. Okay. Ayan. So I think we can now talk about the guys who made our what do you call this? Who made our top 10 na list of standouts, because I think any one of these guys who made our top 10 list could easily be a representative in the international stage. I think that for this year, hindi tayo kapos in terms of height, hindi rin tayo naman kapos in terms of looks. We have, very diverse na looks doon sa mga guys na who made our top 10 list. And at the same time, I am quite happy that a lot of the guys who made our top 10 are some of the guys who were impressive in terms of their interviews, as evidenced by the top 20 na list that was posted with regards to what do you call it, with regards to who made the top 20 in the interviews. Hello Rodvin Fiel, hello, good evening. I hope you leave a thumbs up doon sa ating live stream ngayon. Okay, where was I? Okay, so let's start the conversation with Nathaniel Q. I think that among the guys, Nathaniel is one of those guys na ready to be crowned and ready to be given the responsibility of a title. If you look at his physique, a little bit of toning, perhaps pa ang kailangan. But in terms of yung overall proportion ng kanyang katawan, he actually looks very tall. And that's because he is 6 foot in height. And the thing about Nathaniel is that maganda yung proportions ng katawan niya. Balanse yung ulo sa balikat doon sa haba ng mga limbs, sa haba ng legs niya. And I think that's a very rare na combination. Not to mention that he also is very much a well-rounded na person in terms of his achievements, in terms of his pedigree, in terms of his achievements. Wala kang maipintas. And I think that is his advantage over a lot of the guys in the competition this year. If it was up to me, I would put him as a possible, front runner for the Mr. International na Philippines title. I think that in terms of achievements, in terms of yung physicality, in terms of looks, he is one of the more well-rounded na personalities in the batch. And what I like about him is that mukha siyang mama. I mean, he really looks, very masculine. Hindi ka ma-distract because he does not have that boyish na innocent na look na kung minsan ang hirap i-push in the international stage because ang gusto ng international na community na manalo is not the boyish looking guys but it's the very masculine masculine looking na mga candidates. So I think in terms of that aesthetic, in terms of that part of the competition, Nathaniel is one of the better choices. I just hope that for the finals, he really brings out more of his personality. Kasi yun yung nakukulangan ako when it comes to his social media, when it comes to his mga photos. Kasi he looks, the very I don't want to say aral or very guarded, but he keeps on defaulting on the same look when it comes to his photos. So I do hope that for the finals, he does shake it up a little bit. Because in terms of the speaking na portion, in terms of his height, I mean at 6 feet tall, he will definitely be one of the guys who will easily, I think, make top 5. And I think that's something to say with regards to this Cebu City representative. Nathaniel Q, I think, is a safe bet for any of the top 3 titles. Okay, next. May mga nag-hi. Rodvin Fiel says, present sir. Raquel Rosales is here and sabi niya, good evening. Okay, good evening din Raquel. I hope that you're enjoying our live stream this evening. Now, next on my list, the second on my list, this is in random order, okay, is Alan Roy Sambaan, who is from Cagayan de Oro City, and he stands 6 feet tall. He's only around 18 or 19 years old. So, he might also be perfect for a back-to-back na representation for Mr. Teen International. However, I do not want to box him on that title alone because looking at his physique, looking at the way that he performs during the preliminaries, tumatak sa akin yung kanyang performance doon sa national costume na segment. Umpisa pa lang, nagpakitang gilas na si Bagets. He looks, very young, but with the right siguro na styly, you can make him look a little bit older than he looks. However, in terms yung freshness ng kanyang mukha, in terms of yung kanyang boyish na charm, I think he would be perfect for the Mr. Charm Philippines na title, or perhaps a possibility for any of the higher titles later on. I think being that young, I would, if hindi siya bibigyan ng meaty na title, I would rather have him be given a runner-up position so that he can come back several years later on, because I think at 6 feet tall, hindi ka, meron kang mapaglalagyan na international competition for him. I also think that he is one of the more conversant na mga candidates based doon sa feedback that I've heard from people from media friends who were able to cover the preliminary competition in Tuegegarao. So I am hoping much for this guy in terms of performance later on. I do hope that he brings the same energy that he brought in the preliminaries into the finals, because if ma-maintain niya yon, that would be a good thing for him, because he could easily land one of the top 5 or top 3 titles in Mr. International Philippines this year. Next on my list is another tall guy, and he is also, I think, around 18 or 19 years old. His name is Shadi Khalil. He represents Ilocos Sur, and this guy stands 6 feet 2 inches tall. And for someone who is that tall and who's also that young, ang gandang i-mold siya for an international competition later on, because if you look at his physique, very well developed na yung kanyang muscles. He is, very fit, very muscular, not muscular. Perhaps lean is the better description. So very physically fit siya. And I think kung nataon na siya ang inilaban natin this year, he could easily just, win the Mr. Teeny Philippines na title this year. Or 2 or several years perhaps to mature a little bit more, pwede siyang isabak sa mga international titles, sa mga malalaking international na competitions. And I would not scoff the idea that he might be a good fit for Mr. International Philippines na title, but probably not just this year. I think there's a need for him to be to mature pa in terms of yung kanyang age, so that when it comes to tough questions later on life experiences, he could have something to say or to deliver in his answers, para mas may gravitas, mas meaty yung kanyang what do you call this, yung kanyang responses, because the more life experiences that you have, the more that your answers become more meaningful. Ayan. And I do hope na Shadi would be one of the guys who easily makes top 10 or top 8, because I think he has potential. Kung hindi siya mabigyan ng competition, I would rather that he is given a runner-up position as of this moment. Okay? Next on my list, at number 4, this is in random na arrangement, guys, is Sean Chrysler Sulit, who hails from Oriental Mindoro, and he is also one of the guys who is 6 foot tall. In fact, he stands 6'1". And again, he is one of the guys na in terms of height, hindi mo pwedeng hindi lingunan. This year, as I mentioned earlier, I think ang daming matatangkad, ang daming may itsura, ang daming gwapo. It just so happened that the strength in terms of performance, in terms of stage presence is quite different and varied as well. So kung sino yung mas may charisma on stage, mas may tawag ito, mas may very well thought out na performance on stage, sila yung dapat na papasok sa semis. And Sean is one of those guys na initially I was easy to dismiss as a good as a good looking na na guy na mukhang guwapo pero not so much in terms of the performance. And that is where I was pleasantly surprised because he was giving really strong performance doon sa preliminary competition, especially for me on the formal wear na portion. And I was also talking to several of my to one of my colleagues in who covered the preliminaries in Tuegegarao, and he says that Sean is very much a charmer in person. So I'm glad to hear that because I think he would also be a good competitor because if I'm not mistaken, he is also one of those guys who is very much articulate, and he is, I believe, one of the 20 na guys who made the list of best in interviews. So I would like I would like that sana makunti Raymond Saldana na candidate profile na nakasuit sila. Siya yung isa sa mga una mong makikita na in terms of looks, may itsura talaga. So I believe that if he is able to consistently perform from prelims to finals, then a title would be easy to bag. Now, fifth on my list is one of the most impressive jawline and cheekbones in the competition that I've seen so far. J. Mark Omolon of Palawan stands reportedly at around 5'11", at around 6 foot tall. So I am just waiting for for confirmation on this, because in terms of height, in terms of proportions ng katawan, isa din siya doon sa mga ang ganda ng hugis ng katawan. He's very physically fit. And then at the same time, the proportions are really very model-esque. Not to mention that among the guys, he is probably one of those guys na ang sarap kunan ng photo because he has very chiseled na jawline, squalado yung kanyang jawline, very prominent yung kanyang cheekbones, and then he also has this very intense look on him. So in terms of modeling na mga assignments, I think a little bit more polishing here and there, he would be fit for that. I am not aware so far on his speaking abilities, but I do hope that whether he chooses to speak in English or in the native Filipino, he would be able to confidently express his opinions, because I think siya yung isa sa mga alam mong very masculine yung kanyang arrive, very masculine yung kanyang look. So if given the opportunity to represent the Philippines in international competition, this is the guy that you want to put in the wings as a possible na representative, dahil ang ganda ng kanyang ang ganda niya ng kaha ng mukha, ang ganda ng kayod ng kanyang katawan. He has a very wide na shoulders. Ang sarap niya sigurong damitan because he looks very much like a model. And naman when it comes to modeling in the international na fashion industry, they prefer a very lean na tawag ito na katawan. And from the looks of yung mga photos ni J. Mark, he looks very much on the lean side. And that would be very great for modeling na mga jobs. Ayan. We're halfway there. Now, let's talk about another tall guy na medyo kinakailangan pa ng toning, ng honing ng kanyang physique. And I'm talking about Phil Tungol from Lubao, Pampanga. Again, I know, mapapansin nyo siguro doon sa lahat ng mga nililista ko so far, karamihan sa kanila is quite on the tall side. And Phil is one of those guys because he is 6'2". So if you can remember Minorca Mercado of Venezuela in 1994, kasing tangkad niya siya. And I think, yung ganung height, hindi mo pwedeng dayain. And when I was looking at his socials and dun sa mga socials ng mga photographers who took photos of him, pansin mo din talaga na mahaba yung kanyang bias, mahaba yung kanyang ang rehistro niya on photos. And I think I am quite happy in terms of the heights that I've been researching on the candidates this year. And with Phil standing at 6'2", I am hoping na sana he would be given maybe even a runner-up position just so that hindi siya masayang, para magkaroon siya ng exposure, so that he would also have, what do you call this? Ma-hone yung kanyang way of expressing himself in the public. I think in terms of his photos, in terms of the way I see him on stage, there is still, some improvements in terms of the presentation. He looks good on the National Costume Show. I like yung performance niya doon. It's not too much, but it's not too bare as well. I like his performance on the formal wear more than his performance on the swimwear. I find his swimwear performance a little bit too, I don't know, still lacking in terms of confidence. And I want to see that confidence in his eyes whenever he walks on stage. I think dun ako nagkakaroon ng a little bit disconnect with him, because with a height that is 6'2", I want him to have like a direct look at the camera and really own yung kanyang yung kanyang moment on stage. However, being 6'2", I do hope that that the what do you call this, the judges who will judge who makes top 16 or top 20 this year would give him props for yung physicality. I think he has the potential, but I also think that he also needs a little bit more refinement, a little bit more oomph in terms of his, in terms of his performance. And then I have at number 7, random is Hassan Fernandez Marjan from Isabela. I love his physique. Ang ganda ng katawan niya. I am not sure though if what is his height, but if his height is at least 5'10", then I would think he would be a great representative at Mr. National Universe. Kasi ang ganda ng katawan. He is a contact sports, enthusiast. He is, very, he has that yung kanyang look is not very Filipino, but not very foreign as well. It's just the right mix of the Filipino features and a little bit of the Middle Eastern, I believe, na good looks. And I do hope that he does improve yung kanyang skincare, because I think that is where he needs a little bit more refinement on that, or a little bit more improvement on that. But in terms of his physicality, I think he's one of the most physically fit na guys in the competition, and I think hindi siya masasayang if we send him in an international competition na medyo malapit-lapit yung dates. Some of the guys that still needs a little bit more, toning of the body, probably you might want to send them in the international competition that is slated for next year, so that they have time to prepare. But with with Hassan Marjan, kahit in the next 3 months, pwede mo na siyang ipadala. And I think that is one of his best assets, yung physicality niya. However, he needs to make sure that when it comes to his speaking, in the way he engages, mas magkaroon pa sana ng magkaroon pa sana ng rapport, because from the videos that I have seen him on social media, kinakailangan pang magkaroon siya ng connection with the audience when he speaks. That's an area that needs to be polished. And then, of course, hindi mawawala dun sa listahan ko si Aaron Paulo Maniego, who is a very famous na TikToker. I think yung kanyang strong area is on the speaking ability. Of course, someone who is very articulate, someone who knows how to drive his ideas and points, is a very strong asset to have, especially in any competition, any male pageant. That is why I have this feeling na hindi uuwi si Aaron na walang placement. I think the bare minimum that he would be able to accomplish is a runner-up position. I think that if he is given, an international na competition, and he wins one of the titles, ang kinakailangan niyang ayusin is yung kanyang physicality, because that is where he needs to put in more effort into. Kasi in terms of intellect, in terms of good looks, I think he has that in spades. So yung physicality, I think he is there, but needs more tone and musculature. Ayan. Nathan, yung question mo, I will be answering that a little bit. Unahin ko muna itong mga review, itong mga listahan ko, because I want to make this live stream quick. Ayokong magtagal, umabot na naman tayo ng 2 oras for this topic. Okay? And then we have at number 9, Kenneth Aniban, who represents Cavite City, and he is one of the guys. If I'm not mistaken, kapag inilera mo siya, isa siya doon sa mga guys na swak maging artista, maging model, maging pageant king. So, with his very Filipino-Caucasian na good looks, I would assign him one of the titles in the competition. Perhaps a title like Mr. Charm Philippines or Mr. Beauty Internationale, or even perhaps what's the other title? I think Mr. Global or Mr. Globe. I think Mr. Globe yung na-acquire nilang panibagong title. I think in terms of yung kanyang good looks, he has one of those very memorable na faces. He has this very, angelic na look, but kapag dependent on how you style him, he can look very aggressive. I think in terms of commercial viability, he is one of those guys na pwedeng mag-endorse ng chips, mag-endorse ng kahit na anong FMCG na product. Pwedeng mag-endorse ng mga skincare, pwedeng mag-endorse ng food and beverages. So, very commercial kasi yung mukha niya eh. And yun yung mukha na kahit na sinong Pinoy ma-appreciate, because mestizo nga yung facial features niya. He is also one of the taller guys at 5'10". So, in terms of the overall talaga na quality ng mga candidates this year ng Mr. International Philippines, height is very much present. And what also is very much what I appreciate in terms of his, his physique is that kapag tinitignan ko yung mga past male pageants na he competed in, even if nakalista na he's only 5'10", he actually looks taller because he has longer limbs, mas mahaba yung legs niya as compared doon sa upper torso niya. So in terms of yung proportions ng katawan, his proportions make him look a little bit taller. So yun yung maganda. And this is something that I've seen in the body of Nathaniel Tue and Austin Cabatana. Okay, speaking of Austin, Austin is the 10th guy in our list of 10 that was really impressive in terms of the overall performance during the Mr. International preliminaries in Tuegegarao. And the moment that he stepped during the national costume na segment, which is the first segment in the 3-segment ng competition doon sa preliminaries, alam kong easy in siya sa top 10, sa top, top 5 possibly, or even top 3 ng competition. I think Austin is one of those guys na nung napanood ko yung video ng press presentation ng mga candidates, a month or two ago, siya yung unang-unang mong napansin and that is because commanding yung height niya. Austin stands 6'3". I think he is the tallest candidate this year. So, hindi mo talaga maikakaila na he has the looks, he has the height, he has the physique, and he has the onstage charisma. And this PM80 model, alam mong easy frontrunner for the Mr. International Philippines title. At this point of the competition, nagtatalo yung mga fans ni Austin versus yung mga fans ni Nathaniel, who is the better choice for the Mr. International Philippines. At this point in time, on my perspective, I think that the one who will perform better and consistently on the finals, siya yung mananalong Mr. International Philippines this year. So, it might be safe to say that the MIPH na title is between Nathaniel and Austin. However, I don't want to discount the fact that there are possibilities, or there is a possibility that several other, lesser known na mga candidates might swoop in if they don't have their guards up. There are a lot of guys na within their height that could easily, easily outperform the two if nagpa-petics lang sila come finals. So I do hope that as the competition nears, their finals is on the 28th at Resorts World. I do hope na mag-ano sila na whatever they have in their arsenal, ilabas nila come finals. And not to hold back, I believe. Kasi dikit ang laban nilang dalawa. I think that the fans also feel this. Nakikita ko na when I post on social media, medyo nagtatalo yung pro Austin versus pro Nathaniel. So, I do hope na later on, kapag na-finalize ko na yung mga graphics, that I will be posting some of the guys that I feel would be the best fit for a certain title or certain titles. Hindi masyado heated yung arguments between the two fan base. Yan. So, to recap, if based only on the performance doon sa preliminaries, definitely this would be a wider, wider net, because I would include Arjun, I would include Ronnie, I would include Wenzel, I would include several other guys. I would include just Tony and ah uh, what's his name again? Sorry about that. Let me just check na naman kasi ayan, Ryan Christopher Sacopon ng Talisay, Batangas. I think there's a lot of guys na na mapagpipilian this year, kaya hindi pwedeng front runner ako, pwede na akong mag-relax. No. There are a lot of, hidden gems in this batch. So kinakailangan all out ka parate. Because this competition, it could swing any other way if the front runners are not aware of who their true competition is. Ayan, in terms of the top 10 on my list, based on their performance in the prelims, their physical na proportions, and in terms of their looks, the 10 guys on my list is Nathaniel, Alan Roy. Okay, sabihan na lang, ikumpletuhin na natin ang apelido nila. Nathaniel Q, Alan Roy Sambaan, Shadi Khalil, Sean Chrysler Sulit, J. Mark Omolon, Phil Tunggol, Hassan Fernandez Marjan, Aaron Paulo Maniego, Kenneth Aniban, and Austin Cabatana. Okay, so let me just read some comments kasi I haven't tuloy-tuloy kasi yung chika ko on my list. Dorothy V. Jones says this is quite a promising and deserving selection of candidates. I agree. And I am quite happy because matatangkad ang mga candidates this year, because as you know, height is might, especially on male pageants. In as much as I would want to be very open doon sa possibilities of crowning, someone like Michael Ver, who is only around 5'9" or 5'8", if I'm not mistaken. It's very rare to have someone like him who has the charisma, who has who has the physique of an athlete, and then who also have the charm to win. So male pageants is still very much a physical game. So height is might is still pretty much applicable on male pageants. Kaya in terms of good looks naman, hindi rin mapag-iwanan ito. Although in terms of personal preference, kung sino yung mas gwapong batch, I would still say yung batch last year. Although this year, what I like about the good looks ng mga candidates this year is that there is diversity in terms of looks. May mestizo, may chinito, may moreno, and everything, everything in between, you can find there. Even yung mga halfies na sumali this year, they offer something different in terms of good looks. So that I am very much happy about. So in terms nga talaga of yung batch of this year, I think this batch is a very strong, or rather is a much stronger batch as compared to last year. So it will be very difficult to narrow down yung mga candidates into just a top 8 with the 8 franchises that the Mr. International Philippines Org has. So I do hope na whoever makes the top 10 would be someone who really fought hard for it on the finals. Kasi at this point in time, halos dikit ang laban. There are front runners, but being a front runner does not necessarily equate to an easy win. We've learned that, so we really need to be very mindful of who our competitions are in the pageant, so that hindi tayo papetik-petiks. And I think this is something that the candidates should really put into mind, kasi yung batch nila is very competitive, I believe. Okay, Mark Gonzalez says, okay, continuing dun sa comment ni Mark Gonzalez on the positives and negatives of the preliminary competition. Yung negatives, sabi ni Mark Gonzalez, candidates walking together on both sides of the stage, I agree. Kasi nagiging jerky yung camera angles, and sometimes I don't think napansin ninyo, but there's a lot of moments in the swimsuit and the formal wear competition na panay back shots yung nakikita on stage doon sa live stream. I think that's something that needs to be addressed so that or mas kinakailangan ma-refine yung choreography so that hindi lang panay nakatalikod yung nakikita natin doon sa screen. Okay, sabi ni Mark Gonzalez, yung not cause na voiceover, parts of the not cause falling on stage. I think there is a couple na napansin ko na very visible na may nalaglag on stage. So I agree, especially sa voiceover, medyo parang pasiga yung kanyang voiceover. So I would probably have appreciated of instead of voiceover, yung ginawa nila is that they made the candidates talk about their national costume, tapos yun ang i-play nila para mas may what do you call this, mas may connection yung national costume with the performance and with the voiceover. Okay, Lemuel 23.5. Hello, Lemuel. Glad that you're able to join. Good evening, Sir Jason. Thoughts? A lot of gentlemen really stood out during the preliminaries, like Mark Omolon of Palawan, I agree, or Gabriel Bautista of Pasig. Si Pasig hindi ko masyado napansin. Hassan Fernandez of Isabela, I agree, and RJ of Tarlac. RJ De Vera, yes, I kind of agree with RJ De Vera. RJ has a very meaty physique pa, so probably a little more lean would make it look better on stage. Kasi masyadong bulky siya tignan on stage. It looks good on swimwear, but on the formal wear, isa siya sa mga challenges ng designer kapag masyadong bulky yung especially yung upper torso ng mga guys, if they have if they have very meaty na katawan. Ayan. Let's continue yung comment ni Lemuel. Sabi niya, Kenneth Aniban is also stood out. Kenneth is in my list. Sabi niya, para siyang younger version ni Dennis Trillo, kamukha pa niya. Hehehehe. I don't think Dennis Trillo. More like Tom... Oh my God, ano apelyido ni Tom? Yung partner ni Dennis Trillo sa My Husband's Lover ba yun? Yun yung kamukha ni kamukha ni Kenneth Aniban. I hope you can comment down sa comments kung sino yun. Tom Rodriguez. Yes. Thank you, Lemuel. Ayan. Okay, continuing dun sa comment ni Lemuel, sabi niya, Justoni Matic of Manila, parang pangalan ng artista, hehehe, may chance din to win this year. Nabanggit ko si Justoni in among the guys na was on my list but not on the top 10. If you have time later on, just backread na lang doon sa tawag ito. Sorry about that. Wala na naman. Itong problema kasi sa Wi-Fi, nawawala-wala kung minsan. Ano ba yung point ko kanina? Just Tony Matic, he's one of the guys who made our list but not just the top 10. But in terms of yung in terms of good looks and physique, actually mas maganda yung physique niya. Mas gusto ko yung ganung klaseng lean na physique na wide shoulders, very tight yung kanyang core, yung kanyang abdomen, tapos very may papandesal kumbaga si Justoni. Okay, Jon Snow. Hi Jason, good evening. Pansin ko lang parang sa glam shots ng mga boys, parang nagiging magkakamukha na sila. Is this a good thing? Parang sa Brazil and Spain na magkakamukha rin contestants nila. I think there's a lot of guys actually did this year na medyo magkakamukha. There are some instances na kapag tinitignan ko yung photos ni Sean Chrysler Sulit at saka ni Kenneth Aniba na parang wait lang, sa biglang tingin magkamukha sila. So I am not sure if that's the case, if lighting, if airbrushing yung cost nito. Do appreciate kasi a very well made na glam shot or na headshot or profile shot ng mga candidates. Mas tinitignan ko yung recently nilang nilabas na na headshots na hindi sila nakasuit because I think mas lumulutang yung facial features nila doon sa latest nilang photos. Jon Snow 79 continues with, usually pag top finalist na like top 5, parang magkakapatid na yung natitira. Observation ko lang. Thanks. I do hope na may variation this year. In fact, I was even joking na si MJ Ordiliano at saka si Michael Vercomaling, there are some similarities kapag nag-fierce sila pareho, and probably that's just because pareho silang moreno. Okay? Na ba yung mga comments natin na nilaktawan natin? Okay, I think in terms of the overall look ng Mr. International Philippines this year, very strong tong batch na to, kaya mahihirapan tayong mag-pinpoint kung sino yung pwedeng manalo. And I think it's just a matter of taste because I am not very confident that yung top 10 ko, lahat sila makakapasok sa top 10. Because there are a lot of other guys na waiting on the wings na might change the entire outcome of the game based on their closed door interview, based on their on the judges scoring. So hindi mo rin masabi. I can, as much as possible, just be honest kung sino yung nag-stand out sa akin. But then again, that is a very subjective. That's a very subjective na list. Okay, sabi nila, well, thoughts on the Filipino community candidates of Middle East. Malalakas din ang laban nila. May papandesal, hehe. I think candidates almost looking alike is a good thing, shows strong caliber. Okay, dun muna tayo dun sa Filipino community. Honestly, with the level of the candidates this year, feeling ko natabunan ng slight yung mga candidates ng Filipino community from the Middle East. Although I think at least isa sa kanila magkakakorona. I'm just not sure who. Kasi as I was looking over doon sa mga candidates nila, yung mga overseas na mga candidates, nakulangan ako in terms of their social media presence. And I think that is something that a lot of people would find wanting. Kasi kapag hindi ka masyado visible on social media, pagdating sa evaluation perhaps, tinatanong din kasi ng mga organizers kung sino sa tingin ng media yung medyo malakas. And if wala kang recall on social media, hindi ka agad na top of mind when it comes to who are the guys na mabilis pumasok sa isip mo na possible winners. So, I think yun yung yun yung weak area that needs to be addressed ng mga candidates from the Filipino community overseas, whether it's Middle East, whether it's the US, wherever they come from outside of the Philippines. Kasi ang advantage ng mga nandito sa Pilipinas, alam nila yung galawan dito. Alam nila kung paano maglaro, how to mount a strong pageant campaign because they have, huli nila yung pulso ng masa. Huli nila yung pulso ng pageant media here. Huli nila yung what works here. So I think that's the disadvantage of anyone in the overseas na communities. So I think perhaps that's an area that needs to be addressed doon sa mga sa mga regional directors ng MIPH na I do hope is able to be communicated to them so that yung mga candidates nila na may laban magkaroon talaga ng strong footing when they compete here kasi they are not competing in the same level as the other guys na alam na yung paano laruin yung kiliti ng Filipino pageant fan. So yun. I think at this point in time, anyone who wants to compete at national or international na pageant should not be dismissive of social media and social media presence because that is part and parcel of the entire pageant campaign. Okay? I agree, Limal. The closed-door interview weighs heavy on the outcome of results most of the time, and I think those who excelled in closed-door interviews will most likely enter the semifinals. Yes, I agree. Now, there is a comment. There is a comment from Nathan's Corner here asking about the performance of Herlin Budol, yung very controversial na Q&A niya doon sa pageant that should not be named. Having seen the video and having seen the video where she was crying and saying na kung magkamali ako, tulungan niyo ako. This is something that I've been trying to avoid because when it comes to Herlin Budol's performance, hindi siya nakaka-elevate ng pageantry. When someone asks you a question and seryoso yung tone of voice, tinagalog na, tinranslate na, binigyan ka ng opportunities to answer it, then you as a candidate should be able to answer it in the same tone of voice, the same tone of mood as that of the one who asked the question. Kasi what Herlin did here was to interject humor in a opportunity or in a situation where humor is not warranted. And this is where it's difficult to look at Herlin now as a possible representative to an international audience because there is a lingering fear now na baka ulitin niya na dinog show niya yung ginawa niya sa local at the international level. At ang mapapahiya is Pilipinas, hindi lang siya. And that is a lingering fear that I believe needs to be pondered on, to be addressed, not only by her camp, by her management, but Herlin herself. Because yung ginawa niya na kumakain, nakataas ang paa habang nag-apologize, umiiyak on video, made it only look like she is very artista, that it was a scripted moment to apologize. the optics is very bad. I'm not saying that she was insincere. I am saying that the interpretation of someone looking over and watching the way that she apologized looked rehearsed, looked like it was planned for clicks, planned for sympathy, to earn sympathy votes by making her look like a common person na tawag ito like a common masa na person. My problem with her apology video was that it looked and it felt so scripted. Yung pagkain, yung paiyak, yung pagtaas ng paa niya habang kumakain. And again, when it comes to pageants, optics is very, very important. It's very essential to make it, to make it feel like it was a sincere apology. And we did not get that from Herlene's video because as a past beauty queen, kasi hindi naman siya first time na sumali ng pageant eh. This is her second. She was already a Binibining Pilipinas first runner-up for the past year. She should have learned from that experience of what are the requirements of a beauty queen. And the mere fact that a lot of fans felt that she was not serious in her Binibining Pilipinas stint because she practically almost did not do her duties and responsibilities on public appearances. And very numbered lang yung mga Binibining Pilipinas appearances niya na nakikita mo siya. That added to the very showbiz. That added a very, a very scripted na optics doon sa pinaggagawa niya ngayon. And that is a very dangerous path that she is treading because nowadays, fans, and especially pageant fans, are not stupid, are not easy to manipulate. They are intelligent. And if you are, again, as I said, in all of our, conversations and discussions, whether it's live stream, whether it's, with pageant media, ang mga pageant fans ngayon, hindi bobo. They can smell fear. They can smell insincerity. They can smell propaganda nowadays. That is why it is so difficult to say that dahil naglabas lang si Sashes&Scripts ng ganitong review, maniniwala na lahat ng mga tao. No, hindi ganun ang mga fans ngayon. They will appreciate a well-thought-out na post or a well-thought-out na idea or opinion, but they have an opinion of themselves. They know how to look at and review a video, find if there is truth in there, feel if there is truth in there. And ang mga fans ngayon, especially our community is a very intelligent community. And I don't think that napapansin yon ng, I don't think na that is something that Herlene have pretty much thought of because tingin ko kung masa ang i-appease mo, yes, there's a possibility, there's a huge possibility that you can convince the C, D, E, and F na crowd. But if you want to converse with the, AB na crowd who is well-informed, well-educated, they can smell, insincerity a mile away. And yun yung I was hoping na-address nung kanyang apology video. If it was me who is going to do the spin the PR spin for an apology video, I would have dressed Herlene in a white shirt because again, you're communicating a lot of, you're trying to communicate sincerity, and you communicate not only visually, you communicate verbally, you communicate through non-verbal na cues, and visual cues is very important. That is why noong panahon na in-interview si Chris Aquino, tinutukan siya ng baril ng kanyang partner at that time. She was wearing no makeup. She was wearing a simple white shirt because the optics is important. She knows that the optics of someone who is bearing herself, bearing her soul, her truth, optics is important. And I would have, if I was the PR person to spin yung apology ni Herlene, I would have dressed her down, very minimal na makeup, white shirt, nakaupo siya ng maayos, hindi yung nakataas ang paa niya, and then hindi siya kumakain. I would have just have the mic in front of her, not visible on the video, nakafocus sa mukha niya yung camera, and then speak from the heart. I think that would have been a more, what do you call this? A more effective and a more sincere, optically, no way of apologizing. But the way that she did her apology video really was, was geared towards the masa. It was not geared towards the intelligent pageant fans. So I know there will be some Herlene fans that's going to be up in arms with what I've said in this video. I know that this is a very, touchy na topic. But I think that kinakailangan niyang Okay, we're live back again. So essentially, the expectation of people with Herlene is that she should have learned her lesson from her Binibining Pilipinas stint and applied that in her latest na pageant, sa kanyang latest na competition. The thing about maturity, the thing about learning your lesson is that if you do not show what you've learned, that there's maturity, that there's growth from your last na competition to now, if the optics is showing or making it look like alago ka for the clicks, for the views, if leading towards that direction, it is your and your team's and your management's responsibility to veer it away from that direction. Wala sa fans yan. Nasa sa inyo yan to veer the optics away from that direction, because you are essentially the ones who are in charge of your image. And if your image is so distraught by this perspective na kesyo ganito o kesyo ganyan, then go back to the drawing board, study how can we remedy this, how can we move forward to this, because it doesn't look like Herlene is here because she wants to represent the Philippines as a mature individual. I think yun yung message na ikinasira nung Q&A niya and yung apology video niya. Seryosohin niya ito because when we sent Samantha Bernardo in the competition in Bangkok, sineryoso ni Samantha yung competition. She never let out na showin ko ito. No. Pinakita niya through performance. Samantha, sinabi ng mga detractors niya noon na hindi magaling kumuda. Pagdating niya sa Bangkok, she was able to, communicate well her thoughts. Sinabi ng mga tao na ng mga fans na who were not convinced of Samantha's prowess, that she's not a strong girl because of her height, and hanggang performance lang siya. And what Samantha did was to show personality, with the way she was dressed. She communicated, with her stylist at that time, si Kenneth R, on to craft an image for her, to make her campaign look more serious. And I think that is something that Herlene needs to learn, yung paano sumeryoso kapag kailangan, at hindi yung idadaan mo lang sa humor and sa laro yung competition. Dahil we had girls na sineryoso yung competition, whether it's Parulsha, whether it's Nicole Cordoves, whether it's Samantha Bernardo, they all gave their best. So I do hope na that is a learning that Herlene and her team would move towards to. Kasi right now, I don't think Herlene is deserving of a title to represent the Philippines just yet. I think, or rather, I feel that for me to be convinced that she is ripe for a national title, she needs to show that she can be serious. She needs to show that she wants this, not because she needs it to pad her showbiz career, but rather because she wants to represent the Philippines badly in an international competition. Ayan. Okay, mga final, final questions na tayo, because I want to, I don't want this live stream to go that, to go that very long. Dorothy V. Jones, I know it's a side topic, but I cried when Herlene expressed her very personal frustration in a live vlog. She gets quite confused with the requirements of pageantry, yet I still feel for her. I am frustrated not exactly with Herlene, but with her trainers and handlers. They're not serving her well. That's from Dorothy V. Jones. Okay, John Snow 79 says, regarding Budol, laking difference nung pagsali niya nung Binibining Pilipinas last year. Maraming mali talaga sa ginawa nila. Mukhang alam naman ng mga sponsors at ALV management, kaya wala siyang nakuha. Sayang lang. Lemol 23.5 says, pageant fans in general can also be very brutal in their commentaries, lalo na if they feel the performance of a particular candidate was not par with how they performed in their previous pageant. Marjun Buena says, ilan po ba ang crown sa MIPH? What was reported earlier was around 8 na titles, 7 pa yung confirmed. We're still waiting for the confirmation of the 8th. Yun bang pageantry, may final prediction na top 5 nila, si Tarlac, Palawan, Taguig at Talisay, Batangas. Right now, I don't think na maglalabas pa ang mga pageant pages kung sino yung kanilang mga final picks. So they might be posting that around Tuesday or Wednesday of the coming week. Nathan's Corner, I think Herlene missed out on the trainings that she should have gotten after her winning first runner-up sa BBP. That's the problem doon sa pagiging absent niya sa mga activities, because being trained as a possible host, like you saw naman Stacey Gabriel, Chelsea Fernandez, Gabby Basiano, si Roberta at saka si Nicole. They were all given an opportunity to become hosts in any of the activities ng mga previous Binibining Pilipinas, ng nitong nakaraang Binibining Pilipinas pageant. We've seen Roberta, host yung yung opening ng glam shot exhibit ng um, sa may gateway. Tapos sina Gabby, Nicole, and Chelsea naman were given opportunities to host doon sa mga preliminary activities and competition ng Binibining Pilipinas. So all of these girls were given opportunities, to speak, to be in front of an audience, so that when it comes to public speaking, medyo hasana sila, and I think that's a good training ground that Herlin has missed, because hindi siya present doon sa mga previous Binibining Pilipinas activities. So yes, I kind of agree na it was a disadvantage on Herlin's part. Dorothy V. Jones says she's been continually assigned a very busy and dizzying schedule. Poor girl is already too confused to even join an international pageant. That's why if I were Herlin, focus na lang on the showbiz career muna, and then kapag she has free time later on na hindi siya masyado laden with a lot of projects, then saka siya mag-focus sa pageantry career niya, because you cannot serve two masters at the same time. Okay, saan na ba tayo? Let's read the last mga comments so that we can end our live stream na. Marjan Buena says, grabe, reactor ni MIPH Tarlac sa lahat ng shot niya sa MIPH. Siya pinakamaraming reactor. Limwa235 says, what advice can you give to the frontrunners of MIPH in order for them to secure and seal their place all the way to the crowning moment, since there will be 8 crowns at stake? Consistency and show personality come finals. I think that's the area that lahat sila kinakailangan ilabas come finals. Okay, sabi ni Nathan's Corner, I agree at Belladonna. It would be a good downgrade to all the great queens we sent to MGI. Examples, Nicole Cordovez, San Bernardo, etc. Wala na ba yung man hot star sa MIPH? Di po ba last year na sa MIPH siya? Marjun, yung man hot star is nasa Misters of Filipinas. I think what you're asking is Caballero Universal. So I haven't heard anything on that yet. Lemwal235, on a side topic, mukhang nagsisimula na ang pag-build up ng mga candidates ng MUPH, starting with the local pageants like Binibining Toledo. Dorothy V. Jones, I have students who are struggling to graduate and pass their job trainings. Something's bound to suffer. So there, I think masyado tayong na sidetrack doon sa conversation with regards to Herlin. But I do hope that as we close our live stream ngayon, to pay more attention to the Mr. International Philippines that's happening on the 28th of this month. This Wednesday na, walang pasok ang June 28 because of Idul Adha. It's a Muslim holiday. And it was declared by the Malacanang Palace as a national holiday. So, if there is something that I would want, to summarize yung ating live stream today, is that the guys who made my top 10 are strong guys, definitely. However, they are not guaranteed a title. They're not guaranteed a placement. So they really have to work hard for it. Even now, even if tapos na ang preliminaries, kapag naglabas sila ng hindi magandang ginawa, naglabas sila ng hindi kaganda ang asal. Those are things that could derail their what you call this, their participation come finals, because the organization will take a look into your behavior, whether it's Miss Universe, Mr. International Philippines, Miss International. Importante yung attitude, importante yung professionalism. So if there is one thing that, I would hope that all of the candidates would take away from, this live stream, is that this is a competition and attitude is very much important, because throughout your reign in a year with the organization, you have to exhibit professionalism. Kasi yon ang hindi pwedeng mawala, because that will always be the hallmark of a good queen or a good king or a good pageant winner. People will remember if you're difficult to work with. People will remember yung what do you call this? People will be very difficult to, people who are difficult, will be remembered for that. And once na dumikit na yung label na you're difficult to work with, news like that would spread like wildfire. And you have to be very careful, because in this industry, reputation and character is very crucial to your image, very crucial to your success. So I do hope na yung mga guys na nagko-compete ngayon, wag niyong tularan yung mga bickerings na nangyari sa mga female pageants, because it will not serve you good. And I do hope na na you enjoy as well yung competition, because maikli lang yung competition, and iilan lang yung pwedeng manalo. So I do hope that you build relationships not only with the organization but your co-candidates as well, but with the sponsors that you meet along the way, because they will be instrumental to your career later on. So thank you very much for everyone na nag-stick around dito sa ating live stream. Thank you very much for being here and for showing your support. I will try to have a live stream next Saturday, or somewhere closer to the Mr. International Philippines na finals. That's okay. Margin Bueno, yung nilabas nila na mga top 20 sa closer interviews sa national costume, the list there, placement within the semi-finalists. So yun, that's it guys. Thank you very much for staying tuned dito sa ating very offbeat, off schedule na live stream. Please do leave a thumbs up before we that's it, and have a great evening everyone, and have a great day wherever you are.